In 1943, witnesses claimed they watched a U.S. Navy warship vanish into thin air, right in front of their eyes. The ship reportedly teleported 200 miles in seconds, and the sailors on board were never the same again. Some were found fused into the metal of the ship, others went insane. The U.S. government says none of it ever happened, but the evidence they left behind tells a very different story. The year is 1943. World War II is at its peak. The United States Navy is desperate. German submarines are destroying American ships faster than they can be built. So the Navy turns to science. They launch a classified program called Project Rainbow. The goal: make ships invisible to enemy radar. But according to witnesses, the experiment went much further than anyone expected. On October 28, 1943, the USS Eldridge, a brand new Navy destroyer escort, was docked at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. Huge electromagnetic coils had been wrapped around the hull. The generators were switched on, and then, according to multiple eyewitnesses on nearby ships, something impossible happened. The Eldridge was surrounded by a green glowing fog. It shimmered, and then it was gone. Not sunk, not moved, gone. But here's where it gets disturbing. Seconds later, the USS Eldridge reportedly appeared at the Norfolk Naval Station in Virginia, over 200 miles away. Then, just as suddenly, it reappeared back in Philadelphia. The entire event lasted only a few minutes. But for the crew on board, those few minutes destroyed their lives. Survivors reported that when the ship reappeared, several sailors had gone completely mad, screaming, unable to recognize where they were or who they were. Others were found embedded in the metal structure of the ship itself. Their bodies had merged with the steel walls and floors of the Eldridge during whatever had happened in those missing minutes, and some crew members simply never came back at all. The Navy rounded everyone up. The sailors who survived were reportedly given new identities, discharged with records marked mentally unfit, and warned never to speak about what they witnessed. For years, the story was buried, hidden under layers of classified files and official denials. Then, in 1955, a man named Morris Jessup published a book about UFOs and the possibility of advanced physics. He received a copy of his own book back in the mail, covered in handwritten notes from someone who called himself Carlos Allende. In those notes, Allende claimed he had personally witnessed the Philadelphia experiment from a nearby merchant ship. He described the event in specific detail: the green fog, the disappearance, the screaming sailors, details that had never been made public. So is there any real evidence? The Navy says the USS Eldridge was not even in Philadelphia on that date. Their official logs place the ship elsewhere. But researchers have found something strange: gaps and inconsistencies in those very same logs, pages that seem altered, time periods that don't add up. Then there's the science. In the 1940s, the Navy was actively researching degaussing, a real process that uses electromagnetic fields to reduce a ship's magnetic signature and protect it from magnetic mines. So the technology being experimented on was real. The question is how far it actually went. Albert Einstein himself had worked on a version of his unified field theory, a theory that suggested electromagnetism and gravity were connected. If someone had found a way to apply that theory, warping space itself might not have been impossible. Einstein later withdrew that version of the theory. Some researchers believe he did so deliberately because the implications were too dangerous. The US government has never fully declassified everything connected to Project Rainbow. The USS Eldridge was eventually sold to Greece, where it served in the Greek Navy for decades, and the Greek sailors who served on it later reported strange experiences they could never explain. The ship was scrapped in 1999. Whatever secrets it held went with it. So here's what we know for certain. A classified Navy experiment happened. Sailors lost their minds, records were altered, and one man wrote detailed eyewitness notes about an event the government says never occurred. Whether the ship truly vanished or not, something happened in Philadelphia in 1943, and we may never know the full truth. What do you think? Was this a real government experiment gone wrong, or the most elaborate cover-up in naval history? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want more buried secrets like this one, subscribe, because we're just getting started.